What you're seeing right now, it's not really a live feed of the world. No, it's more like a movie. And the director, the editor, the special effects artist, that's all happening inside your own brain. So let's dive into how this incredible internal film studio actually works and why sometimes the edits it makes can be a literal matter of life and death.
All right, first up, I want you to try a quick experiment. Seriously, go find a mirror if you can. Look at one of your eyes, and then real quick, dart your gaze over to your other eye. Notice something. You can see where your eyes start, and you can see where they land, but you can never, ever catch them in the act of moving. It's impossible. So, what in the world is going on here?
Okay, so those super fast, jerky movements you just made, they have a name, saccades. And get this, we make about 2 or 3 of them every single second. They're basically the building blocks of how we see the world. But our brain, well, it has a really strange way of dealing with them.
And to really get why you can't see your own saccades, you have to wrap your head around a pretty wild idea, that your sense of a smooth, continuous world is all an illusion. A really, really well-made one.
So, think about it like this. Your brain isn't a passive camera just hitting record and letting the footage roll. Oh no, it's an active film editor. It's sitting in a high-tech studio, taking all this raw visual data, cutting out all the shaky, blurry parts, and then splicing together only the best, clearest shots to create this perfect, seamless movie that we call reality.
Okay, so what exactly is our brain's editor cutting out? What's ending up on the cutting room floor? Well, it turns out it's hitting the delete key on a massive amount of visual info, every single second.
This whole process has a name. It's called Saccadic Masking. And this is the answer to our mirror question. It's the reason you can't see your eyes move. Because for a few critical moments, we're talking microseconds here, during every single one of those eye movements, your brain just goes blind. It literally stops processing most of the visual information coming in.
But why? Why would our brain do that? It's actually pretty simple. To save us from a lifetime of feeling sick. Seriously, without this trick, every single time your eyes moved, your vision would be a giant, nauseating motion blur, kind of like a shaky home video from the 90s. Saccadic masking is basically your brain's built-in image stabilization.
So here's the key takeaway, right? Your brain isn't watching a continuous video. It's actually looking at a slideshow. It takes a perfect, stable snapshot before your eye moves. Then it just totally ignores the blurry mess during the move. And finally, it takes another perfect snapshot right when your eye lands in its new spot. Then, the real magic happens. The editor inside your head stitches those 2 clean images together so seamlessly, you never ever notice the cut.
Okay, but here's where things get really, really weird. Truly mind-bending. Because your brain's editor doesn't just hit delete on bad frames, it can actually go back in time and change what you think you just saw.
This brings us to a really cool concept called postdiction. Now, we're all familiar with prediction, right? Using what's happened in the past to guess the future. Well, postdiction flips that completely on its head. It's when your brain uses information it gets in the future to decide what you actually saw in the past. I know it sounds impossible, but it's true.
There was this amazing experiment that shows exactly how this works. So, researchers had people look at a screen. And first, they'd flash 2 dots on the screen for just a tiny fraction of a second. Boom. That's the first frame of the movie, the first piece of info the brain gets.
And then, just as quickly, the dots would disappear and reappear in a totally new spot. Now, because of how they moved, the direction they traveled was completely up for grabs. It was totally ambiguous. So did they move clockwise or counterclockwise? At this exact moment, the brain has 2 equally good answers. It hasn't made up its mind yet. You could say the scene is still on the editing table, waiting for a final decision.
And here is the absolute kicker. The researchers found that if they played a little sound cue after the dots had already moved, that sound could actually change which direction people thought they saw the dots move. Think about that. An event in the future, the sound, literally changed their perception of something that had already happened in the past.
Now, this isn't magic. It's just wild neuroscience. What the study showed is that there's this kind of perceptual buffer, a little window of time, about 300 milliseconds, where what you just saw is still being processed. It's like the footage is still malleable, still open to being re-edited, before your brain finally stamps it and says, okay, this is what happened. So, let's recap. Our brains delete blurry footage and can even rewrite the last few moments of our past, all to create a nice, stable reality for us. And for the most part, that's amazing. But when you're behind the wheel of a car, these exact same editing tricks can become incredibly dangerous.
Think about it. Every single time you make one of those saccades, like glancing at your mirrors or looking left and right at an intersection, you are, for a split second, blind. And at 60 miles an hour, that tiny fraction of a second is more than enough time to completely miss seeing a cyclist or a pedestrian or even another car pulling out.
So, how do you combat this? What can you actually do? Well, road safety experts have a really simple technique. Instead of doing one quick sweeping glance across a junction, which just creates one long, blurry saccade and a huge blind spot, you break it down. You turn it into 3 distinct actions. Look, pause. Look ahead, pause. Look again, pause. Each one of those pauses gives your brain a chance to capture a clean, stable frame, and that dramatically cuts down on those dangerous blind spots.
And the potential impact of this one tiny change in habit? It's staggering. Seriously. According to the experts, if every single driver did this, it could reduce the risk of road accidents by a quarter, 25%. It's just a powerful reminder that understanding these little quirks of our brain's programming can literally save lives.
So we've gone from a simple little trick with a mirror all the way to life-saving driving techniques. And it all circles back to one really profound, fundamental idea about the nature of our reality.
The big idea is this: what you experience as reality isn't a raw feed of the world. It's not the world as it actually is. It's the final cut. It's a story your brain tells itself. A story that's been heavily edited, with scenes deleted and timelines even changed, all in the service of making the narrative feel stable, coherent, and, well, useful for keeping you alive.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of unsettling question to chew on. We trust our eyes implicitly, right? But we've just seen that our perception is a complete construction. It's an edited version of events. So, if the movie that's playing in your head isn't the raw footage, what does that say about what's actually